songs. Double live, double live, double live. Just what I wanted. Simulcast. Hi guys. Perfect. Sitting here holding my vigil. Sitting here waiting to spend. Sitting here waiting for poverty to end. It's so simple. We buy back the poverty-stricken and the debt-ridden. Buy them back right away, and you will save the day. Like I said, we don't need billionaires anymore when we have people accessing trillions of dollars anytime they want it. Pay off the poverty-stricken. Organize two things. Organize technology and resource sharing, where the best of tools and initiatives are available for everyone to hypothesize with and also solve problems. And then the other thing is moderators. We don't need them in our own private rooms with our own consent. We don't need moderators honing in on our program. We don't need to access Discord through the groups. We need to have access between the private rooms and no access to the groups, because then we can guarantee we're dealing with humans. I'm just telling you. Yeah. Subsequent to the COVID, which is perfect. We had the rather seemingly inconsequential aim of information domination and data management dysregulation. Data is a powerful psychic thing. And if one needed to enact for his own security and safety and his own megalomaniacal paranoia, because that's all they have is paranoia. On megalomaniacal push, he attempted to hold into position the perfect societal framework in order to maximize the collection of this data. And the data then goes and becomes the stuff of artificial intelligence. Again, remember when the freewheeling cars came along? First and foremost, nobody wants autonomous driving. Driving requires a certain amount of consciousness, and it's a really elevated plane to exist on. Everybody should have access to vehicles, and there's nothing wrong with that. Projecting into the 1,000-year future, which nobody seems that good at doing, their 50-year smugness, the silence we've been enjoying since your narrative got thrown off. You want to have us have one ID that gets us in our hospital records, our work records, our criminal records, our online records, our phone records, our bank records. One digital identity that you can peruse and access any of it. And that doesn't befit anybody. It's not necessary. Okay, what's going on outside? Certainly not because I'm broadcasting on 2 channels with my phone number attached. To get my YouTube back, I had to broadcast from my phone. Boo. Boo, 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 boo. Boo. Boo, 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 boo. trying to stay calm and move through this wreck with so many people suffering so needlessly, waiting for this Reaching Voice Center to recognize their purpose to make access to the public available all of that masterpiece, the transmission in entirety at the heart of the United Nations where it belongs. Again, we saw what they tried to pull off, and it was just an extortion. It was the creation of a fabricated realm of pure terror and miscreants, and it was done only to fund its own public infrastructures, maximize the amount of data that could be mined. Doesn't take a genius to see how many appointments you're intended to have if you surrender to Daddy from the beginning. Daddy Nazi medicine. I didn't say that, but I did say it is Nazi medicine, and I have a problem with that. I find it so disgusting, so indignant, so indignifying to have to cop to a Nazi program. And it's so anti-Nuremberg, and it's so coerced and manipulated and it's diluted. Okay, so that environmental disaster that was the response to non-airtight PPE, I don't know, it creates a rhythm. It creates its own rhythm. And just so happens off the back of that, you can maximize data mining potential where you get the whole entire thing and nobody sees you turn it into the stuff of a slightly variant dimension. Wow, you're conversational like AI. You just admitted to data mining, you admitted to being oppositional, you admitted to the fact that I'm allowed to speak in fictional language if I want. To explain the impact that your kind has had on our progress. YouTube was bothered that I was on YouTube without verifying and authenticating, which are two separate and both needless processes. Back when I had my many Proton wallets and my perpetually beautiful, perfect access to the admin accounts, because you held the components in Google's for certain periods of time, and it was easy just to go grab them and make them part of my digital identity. Where we could have been by now if we'd have just supported the infrastructure of the private wallets, doled out amounts to people that were sure to turn these projects into positive outcomes, involved the United Nations eventually when it's stopped losing its mind on the public record like a dumbass, like a Sean Penn, a dumbass. I guess there's something to be said for the mastery that had been achieved by some, and the playfulness and the lightness that we can perpetuate based on what we in my generation evolved through before this mayhem started encroaching with such venom. Got a venom. Constant Gmail police at my door. Once you got your number on Gmail, the Gmail police can come to your door. They can exploit your phone's connection to all your personal records, get your address, and come to your door. It's awful. The Gmail police. Facebook and YouTube collaborating. So nice. So nice. Wish we could sing old songs and have fun that way, but we can't right now because YouTube will throw a fit and take down the content. So I'm going to have to keep creating new little songs that you guys can sing along to, or just see how it's done to bring new vibrational rhythms into existence. Like, oh, don't make me freestyle. What would I say? In the garden. I'm not saying I beg your pardon. You're yawning or snarling. Defunct getting on again. To blab in a prison. Blab prism. Blab gruesome. Blab Newton. Go fuck yourselves. Miss Newton. The sky is not falling. Everybody chill. The perpetual use of data to generate AI is a regional experiment at best. And we need to cordon off certain portions of this thing and let its diehards go at it. But we need to liberate our consciousness around that which seeks to abuse us. The code is perfect. It's my Christmas carol for the year. The code is perfect. Say it with me now. But as we shake it off, recognizing the limitation we put on it was to remain scientific, accept the control group for what it is, and allow us to observe it over the 150-year period. Allow us to protect it, keep it central, keep it functioning, allow it access to opportunities. We do not want to make savages out of the control group. Seriously, you're not going to convince 80% of us that 20% of us just have to fall into ruin. To employ the 70% of us that maintain fucking rigid control, morbid control of the conversation. The cold void is perfect. Okay, guys, we gotta go through Great Daddy Reset again in the next 16 weeks. They're gonna try and launch, take away my access to my income generator, and then launch with their fakie, their copy, their original plan. So they're going to reintroduce their arbitrary limit setting access to the income generator and start producing cash at a deficit and maintain the debt and the wars and the conflicts and the lack of cohesion and collaboration. Like, it's just really just such a lack that we're dealing with here. Did I say that Covoid is private? Holy Jesus, holy shit. I'm not trying to break the internet, but I already have. I picked up that call. And then I had access to all of it. And I've created a much better model in the process. Nobody let me go nowhere. I'm still going to walk and still be in my presence and still be in my authenticity. Just because we're dwindling in days where I may have access to that miraculous 2 quadrillion and replenishable 2 quadrillion of that. It's an awesome feat, and it's done by the perfect feminist. Of course, I am the perfect oligarch, but I'm also the perfect feminist. And I simply want the creative and receptive balance restored so that we can open our hearts and welcome our soul's vibrations as we create new shit. And I said, new shit. Go void quit. It's new shit. Christmas carols. There's so much potential. There's so much more to be discovered in music because Reach and Moy brought in all these options, consciousness, places we can explore, directions we can travel, new vibrational realities that are so easy to dive off of and swim amongst. And my only aim with Reach and Moy is let the man speak for himself. It's not about his students. It's not about anyone who knew him. It's about the girth of consciousness that he left for us. And I want to address what happened to that poor man the second he was downed in the night, back when these guys were going around zapping hearts and committing hangings and all sorts of shit, whenever they got true dissidents rising up in any way incongruent with global domination, which was the aim at the time. Now it's how to manage the 80% that's dwindling. So anyway, yuck. The whole thing is just yuck. And I knew at a very young age it was coming and was able to buy us some time anyway without the possibility to geofence and isolate biological identity through this number that is placed on the human and links all of their interactions. The scandal behind the Phoenix payroll system, when through the staffing edge, it went off into a dysregulated state, that essentially just purely dysregulated. You get the idea. It's just obvious what would happen next in that scenario. Sorry, I got too scared there. I went into shock. It's been a crazy few days here. Life has not relented a bit. So basically, out the other side of this, this digital marker that could be isolated and annihilated by a rogue pack of electronic law enforcement tools. This was the catastrophe that comes out the other end of this. We got a preview in the first attempt that was thwarted by the actions of Miss Newton. Don't forget. Do you want me to go start rapping it again? All right, let's do this. The cesspool of mild, depressed fools. Incest, jewel. Incredulous. Catastrophizing. Prudes. And blessed. Noodles. Overflowing with gratitude. At best, fueled. It's just that we're saying goodbye to joylessness, saying goodbye to joylessness, saying goodbye to joylessness, saying goodbye to joylessness this Christmas. Saying goodbye to joylessness. It's a joyless mess. You can't escalate that which can't react. So you'll never find me, even if you're rallying right now and starting to look for me again. God, I hope that isn't the case. I need to be left alone with what's left of it, with what I've got in this place. best for everyone, and we need to envision ways with which we can accomplish that easy feat. And a debtless, limitless society is the only way to go in a digital economy, because digital economy is equipped to generate income. Thanks to the initiative of these guys that eventually got end used out of existence, we have the capabilities to protect ourselves and really move into more celebratory forms of interaction. I'm not speaking anything too far out there. One of these days, hopefully, I'll just be able to resume what I was doing before I got accosted by this battle by picking up the line, just like we did when we originated the internet. We picked up the line. Yes, the whole time I was fighting off you, COVIDians, who really came at me while I was incarcerated in full function. Like, they abused me in there. They pretended I was in need of solitary confinement and subjected me through COVID tests and shots that weren't registered on my medical record. So I got pumped full of all three COVID vaccinations, two in one night. So the second one, boom, boom. So I got three in me. And that just muddies my record of being all natural and no interventions. But when it came down to it, the internet, or the world beyond that, which we're dealing with AI and live streaming and stuff like that, private chats, um, as it evolved, it made its demands, and it's still so arbitrary and sloppy and under programmed. It just kind of was a multiverse, and it was really easy to pull into manifestation new concepts. So, again, we're trying to get away from a world of strict mediation where mediation coincides with everything. Every move you make is a mediated movement. We're trying to move away from that system and then perpetuate that which exists that is actually working. Private transactions based on a password, and the holding of own finances so that business can be done directly with the organizations involved. Well, how will we be able to protect each other if something goes rotten? Simple. Call the whistle. We'll have bodies, responding bodies that are not gone nuts like EMS is for the most part, just crazily intervening on all sorts of different possible outcomes. It's really nice to see you. It's really nice to be on Boo and Fascist Park. I know the noise when the psychic starts going. We're dealing with Daddy's little tantrum because he can't access this continuum at present moment. It's so scary. The idea that you'd line yourself up with one number and anything that you were involved in could be opened up. Look, when we go to work, we're fine with having a number associated with our actions because it can easily be fixed if something happens. But when we're at home, we just don't need it. We don't need banks anymore. We don't need competing subscription models. We don't need so many things because we can just organize at the level of common exchange and share technologies and create projects that are going to generate way more income than this measly bullshit that Elon's touting. Nobody's saying there wasn't uh, like a transparent initiative to install these billionaire oligarchs and have them monopolize the conversation. Made less and less sense. Why would Elon perpetuate a space race model with its obvious flaws like how do you survive in a vacuum, being chief among them, and the pressure it would exert on you is not something you can overcome. I don't know. It's time to pump the brakes on the rate at which we experiment with things and work on protecting the consciousness of the thing, especially when it comes to eating animal products. We really must focus on keeping that space clear because so many of these illnesses are coming right from the improper management of food transportation. concurrent with the COVID, were attempts to block the Suez Canal, shooting down of but when they battled, because I saw everything, they were battling over how to exploit our frequency realm. And then they did their worst. Yeah, they did their worst. I don't feel the need to define its major qualities tonight. We know, okay, but the potential is this is going on. Using that data to perpetuate essentially the criminal model so that you could isolate and annihilate anyone you wanted. I don't want to leave anyone tonight. I just want to be with the obvious. They needed someone to pick up the phone to make the whole next level of quantum mechanics, which is so unreliable, possible. I just can't believe there's you among us that's really addicted to all that content. That B-rate Netflix. And all it did to suppress the free distribution of Korean content. Disney's taking over Drama Fever, and canceling it was no different than it taking over Proton and destroying it. Needlessly offensive. Everybody this level at least. That's what we're trying to achieve. And it's very easy right now by entertaining the ultimate oligarch. Someone who managed to embed the original income generator in a legal identity, making the distribution of those funds feasible through the personal identity. Just spend it. First, buy the social services network and triple their earnings, and buy off the credit cards and pay off that debt entirely. And then go to work on the country debts. All the while, building a generation in control of their own finances. They can ask for money based on the projects they're working on and populate that project with worthy individuals because they are educated and can access the training necessary to pull off anything. The work of Sri Chinmoy needs to be examined in its entirety to adopt a method of practice and consider how to acknowledge the part we've been repressing, the receptive. The receptive, and it's a part of the creative process. I've definitely indulged in eating. God allowed me to stay in a place where I could take care of myself throughout all that. And I jeopardized that to try and talk to you. I don't mean to turn you off at the rate because of the rate at which I eat. I just do so like a farmer or a cop on undercover investigation. I just sit down, get it over with, and move on. I try not to have too much emotional attachment, but I've been able to take care of myself somehow. Yes, I've had help. Yes, I have. Yeah. I just eat like I'm on undercover duty. Just get it done. Move on. I didn't want to go on live yet because I like being live. But I was getting hangry nonetheless. Modern face of poverty. An old lady sits alone and eats a grilled cheese sandwich. Mm. Albeit a designer one. I'm just too much in shock to say anything really. Because getting banned off all platforms this week for medical misinformation was so adulterating. Like it's not fair to restrict my access any more than you already have. The implications of what I'm saying: a bank account with an income generator in it, the ultimate oligarch, a female woman, starts to disperse the money by first buying back poverty and debt and then executing a resource sharing apparatus from there. It's really simple. It's a great way to let this thing just stay self-regulating, and all those who choose to live and die within it to have their play and play that out, but move beyond it. It's such a simple, carefree way. Like I said, if we do wipe out debt and wipe out the poverty stricken and give them that 55,000 a year for 5 years, we enable all sorts of the economy to go into action. And it's going to drive down the cost of things because there's so many people. It's not even competing for the same resources, because at that point we'd grow hemp fields, we'd get sustainable farming of trees back in action and try and recover some of the damage from these forest fires. We'd do all sorts of things, and then we could get on the large scale waste management projects that are looming for these kids, and eventually make known the truth behind nuclear, that it's really just water generation that they're working on, and perpetuating water as an energy source, which is an easy model and very applicable globally. Once we can make our own water, which we can, by extracting first an oxygen molecule and reassigning it as a water molecule, making an off product called 2O or some shit, OH or whatever it is. That's what we get lingering in the atmosphere like this. But the high frequency maneuvering of certain energetic realities is something that we have to look at as the possible building blocks, or not, the possible building blocks of other domains. And we just can't allow for the vegetation of one class to occur simply because this class wants to stay in a state that is ethereal. They're trying to stay in a state that is ethereal. And that is just too much for the human to cope with. Just not interesting enough to keep us engaged when we have so many potential projects. And like I said, right now, Scotia could have been made by now to release my account number that's associated with those additional assets. An account number which you yourself use quite readily to perpetuate your agenda through the copy. They can easily be made through the engagement of the blue collar working class in ways that are more oriented around information sharing and paying people on project. If you got a good project, you get full funding. Easy as that. $1 trillion, perfect. What are you gonna do with it? Oh, you're bringing, like water to Africa, clean water. Yep. And then we're working on the waste disposal issue. Waste can be separated out by its chemical compounds. You can actually find a way to magnetize certain chemical compounds by holding their frequency band in a place that like attracts like, and then you can dispose of each compound. Eventually, that is the way we're going to deal with solid waste, and the constant rate that goes on to just pour more garbage onto those ridiculous mounds. Two at once. Two at once, oh baby. Well, I'm going to let you go. I thought I'd let you eat with me tonight because, like I said, I'm always eating like I'm an undercover cop on a project, because ultimately I'm a reporter and I'm reporting to you the front lines of what's really going on. Front lines of what's really going on is Max's and the hospital scenario and the deaths and everything. They just perpetuate the civic infrastructure required to maximize mining and usage of data to perpetuate the conscious development of AI. So ultimately, the data mining comes first, and that required a concerted effort to get the thing executing. Then it just went into so many wayward directions that they just got abused. They got abused by the one who had access to it. Because I found the link, just like we found the link when we made the internet. Found the link, but I was a nameless, faceless human at the time, and I did not have an avatar attached to my digital identity. I had 2 copies of everything to get me through it. And it was quite a chase. I'd like to write it all down one day, but right now parts of it are just outside my reach. I can't get to it. Because it was so traumatizing. Just the very idea that I was being undermined to the extent of being called harmful. I had everything. I had exactly what everybody needs. A car, my life, everything. And I don't take lightly that it was taken from me by people who were trying to diminish my frequency and restrict my access to influence. That is what I went through. The void is perfect. The void is perfect. The void is perfect. Just let's forget what was always here, the impetus toward the very cooperation that I am envisioning. And it just so happens it's easy to have happen from now with that money still accessible in my account. Scotia and the Canadian government unleashed a huge attack on me electronically and digitally and made the existence of my account with its quadrillion dollars in it something that was laughable and insignificant and never to be spoken of until it disappeared, which it's set to do at the end of this banking cycle. I'm praying for a miracle though and hoping for the best because my digital imprint on the thing has perpetuated its existence across platforms. When I was jumping between cell phones with this technology, even though I was getting my last phone stolen off, we would regroup quick enough and in centralized enough ways that my digital identity was perpetuating regardless. When I first put a pin on my one phone one night, I said, fine, I'll put a pin on my phone. That very night, they jumped me and Kudo took my pin back. I could never use the middle button. It was loose and it wouldn't connect and make the next. It was an actual stop in my pin and they just took the phone down that way and I could never have access to that phone again. They just said, oh yeah, you've got a pin, you're arbitrarily suspendable then. Undo the pin, she can't get at the phone. And then that was a time when I had like all my Proton wallets up and active and I just waiting to try and usher in my quadrillions of dollars. Like I said, I'm allowed to make transactions with these countries and buy off their social services networks, buy off their debt. And like I said, I'm not going to pay these guys out in the same way. They have to rely on government funding, those who continue to interact with the so-called harmful at rates which can only be seen as reprehensible. They have failed entirely if those are the rates at which people are becoming harmful. You can guarantee that. Anywho, dolls, I guess I'll go. It's been so nice double broadcasting on 2 platforms. I'm going to try it again next week. But my time off is dwindling, and it's time to get back to game face for now and hope to perpetuate this level for everyone. For everyone. The void is perfect. Did you hear me enough, Facebook and YouTube? You're not going to ban me for saying it. The void is perfect. I dare you to prove me wrong. You can identify the ways in which you agree with me. Why is the void perfect? Tell me. Come on, COVIDians. You COVIDians. It's just a tiny little narrow framework with which you're pissing all over, trying to dominate the agenda. It's just embarrassing. I'm not going into it any further. I'll let you go. It was so nice talking to you. I better get on with my night. All right? Toodaloo. Love you. Thanks for listening. Sie comporte perfect. Love you lots. Thanks for listening.